Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We're not 100% sure at this time that we'll have a game here at Williams-Brice. While that planning is underway, it is not a definite. We will continue to monitor the infrastructure that is necessary to have a football game, and consider, hopefully within 24 to 36 hours, whether or not that we will play here.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from a drying out downtown Columbia Main Street. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, the Steak Man, Graham Pope, all together with you tonight. We certainly hope today has been in some ways a little bit better for you than yesterday, and hopefully things are improving across the state. I know in the upstate where I was today at Clemson, it was dry as a bone up there. Temperatures in the 80s, and things were looking nice up there. As I made my way back through the state, I could see it crossing some of the rivers. As you got closer to Columbia, just how much water some of those rivers are carrying right now all the way through the state. So as the governor has said, we're not out of the woods by any means yet. And you heard Ray Tanner say that the South Carolina LSU game being played in Columbia is somewhat in doubt. K-Mac was over there today. So what did you take from the presser, and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, that's $1 million question right there. I walked into that thing really believing the game was going to go off as scheduled, and that was the thought. But when Spurrier left, and he actually made a comment, well, I guess we're still playing at noon right now. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. But then Tanner had an impromptu press gathering, and he said at that time it's not 100% that it'll happen in Columbia, and they are exploring other venues. He did not name any venue, but you could deduce that Charlotte and Bank of America Stadium would be one with the Panthers off this week. They did recently resod the field. Maybe Atlanta, the Falcons are home, but maybe they can do a quick turnaround. And he said don't rule out the possibility of South Carolina traveling to Baton Rouge and playing there at the other Death Valley.
Well, I would think that would be the least acceptable of the possible decisions here. You want to have your game at home if at all possible, or as close to your fans if at all possible. So we'll see what happens. I mean, those are really pro decisions that are going to be out of the hands to some degree of the football program and maybe the athletic department. It's all what the city is able to handle and what state resources are able to handle.
Yeah, that's the key, because we still have a water situation where they're asking all citizens to boil water, have to have water inside the stadium, have to have traffic control. And I know the highway patrolmen are busy with other things right now around the state. Clarendon County, by the way, I heard yesterday was an island. Everything is separated from them. And even if you have it at Charlotte or even in Atlanta, people have to travel through some of those roads. And if you have it at Williams-Brice, your student body probably isn't there because they've been given the whole week off.
Yeah. Okay, up at Clemson, they're all very happy, and we'll be right back. Good to have you back with us here on Sports Talk as we make it through a pretty difficult time here in South Carolina, but we're going to make it, and we're going to make it through today and make it through tomorrow and get to the weekend and enjoy some things this weekend. And hopefully those who are dealing with personal issues related to property and family and things of that nature, hopefully those folks can get things sorted out and back in order as soon as possible and can get on to enjoying what should be a beautiful fall and hopefully a great football season the rest of the way. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at SportsTalk and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. To your calls in just a moment. This is a Talking Tuesday. That means we'll hear from Spurrier and we'll hear from Sweeney. And I'll recap Sweeney for you real quick. 48 minutes late with a lot of questions. He was pretty giddy about where things are with the Tigers. Giddy but serious. Giddy over the win over Notre Dame and answering some of the critics who did not believe Clemson could beat Notre Dame. But the serious side, knowing they had to get right back to work and get ready for Georgia Tech, get back to ACC play, get back to the next task at hand for them, which is winning their division in the ACC. And he knows Georgia Tech, despite the fact they're on a 3-game losing streak and they have several injuries, especially on the offensive side and their running back positions. He still knows that they'll be a very dangerous team with that triple option. They have worked long and hard on defensing the triple option, and they'll get a chance to see it again. They saw it against Wofford, but this will be a bigger, faster, stronger version of it coming from Georgia Tech. Tigers are healthy. Ryan Norton is not back. It'll be another week for him, but they came out of Notre Dame with no new sidelining injuries. Austin Bryant was banged up a little bit, but he should be okay. And we finally have closure to the Ammon Lacob story. As Dabo told us at the end of the press conference in answering a question that by the only reporter who would ask the question, by the way, we all know who that is, that he went through PTI and he completed the PTI requirements, pretrial intervention, for those of you wondering, not talking about the television show. This is pretrial intervention, something a little more serious. But he went through the PTI program, I'm guessing in Pickens County, since that's where the arrest took place. And he completed everything successfully. That's why he was away from the team. And his record is expunged, cleared. He's good to go, and that's why he was reinstated to the team. And Lacob also made an appearance today at the interview session. We'll let you hear what he had to say about his personal ordeal. We'll have that for you tonight as well. And that is it from the Clemson side of things. DJ Reader remains away from the team, will not be redshirted, plans to graduate in December. No idea if or when he'll be back with the Clemson football team this season, according to Sweeney. K-Mac, quick recap on the Gamecocks.
Yeah, the Gamecocks, from an injury standpoint, Brandon Wilds could be back this week, although I was just checking out a practice report. He didn't practice today. Alan Knott also has a chance to return this week at center after missing a couple of weeks with an ankle injury. Wilds with the rib that's kept him out for the past couple of games since Georgia. Lorenzo Nunez not throwing, wasn't expected to throw at practice today, but they think he'll be ready to go by the end of the week. And everybody knows that the key for South Carolina is stopping that Leonard Fournette guy. And I know LSU doesn't have what anybody would consider a game breaker at quarterback, but South Carolina has a tendency on defense with their current setup of making average quarterbacks look above average. So I don't think the Gamecocks can just completely discount the passing game for LSU, but they are focused on Lorenzo Nunez, who Spurrier said is as good of a back as they've ever seen. A lot of comparisons to Herschel Walker and all the great backs that have come through the SEC, Bo Jackson with Leonard Fournette.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. LSU comes in ranked as high as number 5. They're also ranked number 7. They're 4-0. Remember, their season opening game was rained out against McNeese State, or stormed out, whatever the case may be. They beat Mississippi State on the road by 2. They beat Auburn at home by 24. They won at Syracuse by 10. And they beat Eastern Michigan at home by 22 last time out. And Fournette has been the story of their season so far. Let's get to your calls here. What's on your mind tonight? 800-956-7266. Of course, the Major League Baseball playoffs, the wild card games begin tonight. Houston at New York, and the National League wild card game will be tomorrow night. As we go to, you said Bob in Casey. Bob, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Phil. How are you, Tom and Kevin, all doing?
We're fine, thank you.
Okay, well, in the coaches poll, Clemson's ranked 6th. LSU's, let's see, ranked 5th. You go over to the AP poll, Clemson's 6th. LSU 7th. You go to the Sagarin ratings and the USA Today, Clemson's 8th. South Carolina's 58th. Out of all the Division I team, FBS and FCS, all put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's actually, I don't know that I would have them that high. That's a little surprising that they're ranked in the
It's what happens when
top
you're 2
60.
and 3 and the other 2 teams you're talking about are undefeated. They're going to be ranked higher.
What's the bad thing about it for South Carolina is they haven't played their tough games yet. Sans Georgia, the Gamecocks really needed to win the rest of those games. They needed to. Missouri was a winnable game on the road for them, starting a freshman for the first time, and the struggles that they've had. Kentucky was a definite winnable game at home, a game they should have won. They didn't, and now they've got 7 games left, 4 against teams that are ranked 11 or better. Good luck.
800-956-7266. We head to Mike in Somerville for our next call. How's everything down in Somerville related to the rain and the water, Mike?
Getting worse as far as the water. It's rising. I just passed the Edisto River, and I've never seen it over the bank. It's actually over the bank of the Edisto River.
Wow.
And I've been going there for over 50 years. Never seen it. And it still appears to still be coming up.
It's all coming down from this way.
It's
all
coming
down
from here down your way. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's wasn't able to make it to work yesterday, made it today, and not sure I'll be able to make it all the way home.
Well, be careful, man. Be careful.
Yeah. I spent Saturday at the Clemson game, and I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I'm a Clemson Carolina fan unless they're playing Notre Dame. Either one of them. I pull for both the state schools. And I just want to say I have never been treated as well, especially wearing the other team's colors, for lack of a better word, as we were all day long by the Clemson fans. And it was the first time I ever been to one of their games, and I was, wearing the other team's colors, for lack of a better word. And I just wanted to shout out, it was just amazing that we were not prepared as we should have been for the rain. And some Clemson fans even allowed us to use one of their tents for our tailgating. And just the whole day, that's what I was most impressed about, was the way that the fans all said welcome to Clemson, and won't know where we were from and all that. Assuming we were from Indiana or somewhere, but being Somerville. But it was just overwhelming the way that, from the kids to the students to their fans, everybody was just amazing how they made us feel welcomed, and it just overwhelmed. It really was, and it was surprising. I anticipated maybe a little not so friendly jostling with us or what have you, but it was really a pleasant experience. And I also have to say, in my opinion, that Dabo outcoached Kelly in that game is what I felt like I saw.
All right, thank you very much.
Don't go for 2.
Yeah. It's like
very questionable call. Say this
mistake.
about fans, and I think this is the case if we're talking Clemson, South Carolina. Most places, 99.9% are going to be very nice to you.
If you go looking for trouble, you'll usually find it, but most places they're
going to be nice to you. Not surprised at all. Back in a moment. It's a Talking Tuesday here on Sports Talk. We're talking to you at 800-956-7266. We'll be talking with the coaches coming up, and we are brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Back to your phone calls we go on this Tuesday night, and it's Ronnie in North Augusta up next here on Sports Talk. Hello, Ronnie.
Bill, how you guys doing tonight?
Man, we're doing well. You sound well also.
Yeah, I want to give some missing persons report. I found him today, and then I'll talk about the ball games. But when I was coming from the doctor in Augusta today, when I went over the Savannah River, I saw a float going down the Savannah River. A guy had a flag on it that said BB. I don't know who that might be. Y'all know anybody named BB that could be hiding right now?
Bulldog, BB, Bulldog Bird. Okay.
I tried to flag him down. I'm looking for a ride out of town, too.
I read in the Tuscaloosa newspaper that early this morning, Nick Saban was served with an arrest warrant at his house for animal cruelty.
For
what he did to the Bulldogs.
Hey, I ain't even nothing to say about Carolina. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. I will say that I like Sean Elliott, but I'm just not sure how good of a job he's doing unless it's like everything else with our talent is not what it needs to be. But our offensive line is just pathetic when you can't run for more than 1 or 2 yards per carry. And those guys, they're just not getting any holes at all. They're not great backs, but I do think that a lot of it has got to do with the offensive line. But I'm going to give you what I really think about Clemson, and I want to see what you say. I give them credit. I thought their defensive line and linebackers were as good as I've seen. They surprised me with what they lost. I wasn't looking for their defensive line to be that good, but I do think outside of Mackenzie Alexander, Clemson's got a lot of work to do in that secondary back there, because if they make one of those Final Four, they get matched up with a TCU or Baylor, so somebody that can throw the ball like that. I mean, they're going to light the scoreboard up.
You don't like
Carolina Saturday.
You don't think Jerron Kearse is a terrific safety back there at the back end of that defense? I
certainly didn't see it Saturday, Bill. I saw a lot of stuff like Carolina secondary.
I mean,
they had 2 or 3 years looking at each other to see who was supposed to cover somebody.
They had a bad fourth quarter, and Notre Dame ran a tremendous wheel route on them that caught everybody off guard.
That was a bust. Yeah.
But Clemson's defensive players, they made plays. Kearse came in and stripped the ball down at the 2-yard line. I think he was the one on that hit, was he not? They made the play on the 2-point convert when they had to step up and make plays.
That's what they've been doing.
They make plays.
Mackenzie Alexander shut down Fuller for the most part throughout the game. It was, Notre Dame got some yards. Notre Dame's a good squad. I mean, that's a solid team.
They surprised you with this best team
and they got some
speed
momentum
I've seen in years at Notre Dame.
And listen, just like Alabama, don't count Notre Dame back. They have the kind of schedule that will allow them to play their way back into playoff talk. And welcome back into Sports Talk. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We'll hear from the coaches coming up in a few minutes. Right now we have some open lines for you. If you want to join in on the program, you can get right through to us as some lines have opened up. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Clemson and Georgia Tech, of course, the Tigers have to protect themselves against the natural letdown. You know, they can say all the words that they want to say about this being another season. Last week was a season. This week is a season. Next week is a season, et cetera. But, you know, as well as I do, that Clemson put so much emotion and effort and energy into the Notre Dame game, not just the players, but the fans as well. And I'm talking about fans having a letdown. I mean, there's just no way, especially being an afternoon game, I don't think there's any way the fans can match the hysteria of what they had for Notre Dame. I mean, it'll still be loud and it'll still be supportive in the Valley. But of course, I wasn't there. I could only watch on television. K-Mac was there, but I could tell on television when the cameras are shaking, you know, it's a loud stadium. And, you know, especially even on Watson's first run for 38 yards, you could see the camera vibrating because of the noise. They can't possibly match that, I wouldn't believe. And that trickles on down. And the players, they're going to give it their best and play as hard as they can. But it might be too much to ask them to get back to that same point they were last week. Plus, they had 16 days between games last week.
Yeah, I think probably they would be able to get up if Georgia Tech was having a better season.
Yeah.
I think
which makes the game even more dangerous because Georgia Tech is capable of turning it on at any point. You know, they're better than they have been the last three times.
That's why if you Clemson again, the same recipe. You got to get a working margin early. And then this is where depth comes in because the guys who normally don't get as many snaps, they want to play. So give you guys a break, get a lead early, 10, 14-point lead, and those guys maybe who not up after a little bit down after Notre Dame game, put the bench in, let them play.
I think Clemson's offense needs to show up. It's time for Clemson's offense to put together a 4-quarter solid game against a quality opponent. And they had a great start against Notre Dame, an outstanding start on that first drive. But really, that first drive's all they had. They got really good field position on their second drive after a shanked punt by Notre Dame and took it in. And they got good field position in the third quarter on a turnover when Lakeup came in there and forced a fumble. But outside of that, they were spinning their tires most of the night, and Notre Dame almost doubled them in total offense. They need to find themselves offensively, and I really think this could be a game where they have to. Clemson's defense has been carrying the day. Now they're going to face a Georgia Tech offense that it's going to get yards. It's going to probably score some points. I think Georgia Tech, they're kind of due for one of their breakout games. They've gone backwards for a while, 3 straight losses. Are they going to lose 4 straight, this team? They're going to be kind of like Louisville, a cornered, wounded animal that's going to come out fighting there against the Tigers, and they'd like nothing more than to beat a top 10 team at their place to get their season back on track.
You know, Georgia Tech still averages 312 rushing yards per game. They're not throwing it as well as you would think with Justin Thomas, who's a pretty good passing quarterback. They've only averaged 127 passing yards per game thus far. He's completing only 45.6% with 7 touchdowns and 2 picks, only 36 of 79. So they've struggled there. But, you know, it's the type of passing attack that relies on the big pass. Their leading receiver, Ricky June, is averaging over 17 yards a catch. Michael Summers is averaging about 15 yards a catch. So when they complete them down the field because they've got you sucked up to play the run, so that opens up the big pass over the top. So that's what Clemson has to deal with. In typical Georgia Tech fashion, they do put the ball on the ground. They fumbled 14 times. They've lost it 5 times. But they are the least penalized team in FBS football with only 11 flags against them so far in 5 games. So they do not make a whole lot of mistakes or have not been to this point. All right, back to the phones. And it's Lee here in Columbia. Lee, good to have you with us tonight. How are you?
Man, wet and flooded out.
Well, dry it off as quickly as possible.
Guys, this is not Tommy Bowden team. Remember Dabble, BYOG. Bring your own guts. Dabo motivates these guys, I think, like no other coach has, maybe Danny Ford. Dabo keep them on a straight level, and you know, like he's saying now, Notre Dame's behind us. We got next week this game going on. You know what I'm saying? One thing, Sharon Peak is on a milk carton, isn't he? This guy is missing.
Well, the entire passing game was missing Saturday night, but the weather conditions were not conducive to
it was the same for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame dropped a few balls they should have caught too. Probably a touchdown there at the end of the first half. But no, that play by Peak though, it wasn't a great pass, and I didn't really like the call. But you gotta knock the ball down. You can't let the guy intercept it there. Tackle him and take the PI penalty and keep the ball and back yourself up. You just can't take that. And that kind of was part of the way Notre Dame turned the momentum in their favor there when that offense was bogging down. I thought the play calling was a little too conservative there down the stretch too for Clemson. They were playing not to lose instead of to win.
What I'm saying about this guy, he did the same thing against Louisville, interception. He didn't even try to contest the pass. He let the guy intercept the ball and go down. Brentville, the defensive coordinator,
Venables,
has got to be one of the best defensive coordinators. And what he has.
I'm going to tell you, I am so impressed with this guy. If he's not a head coach in the next year or two, I think a lot of ADs will be missing the boat. If you ask me, he is, I don't know what his age is off the top of my head. He might be around Dabo's age. I don't know. But to me, he's a similar Dabo Swinney. Enthusiastic, loves to recruit. But he's 44, so he's Dabo's age. The difference is that, you know, Dabo was never a coordinator before he became a head coach. This guy's been a coordinator at at a couple of major programs and has been successful wherever he has been. This guy is a head coach in waiting. And I think, again, if he's not a head coach in the next year or two at a big-time school, I think some ADs will be missing the boat. Now, I guess – part of the thing for him, he's a defensive coach. You'll have to show whoever wants to hire him that he's got a good offensive mind in mind, somebody to bring with him to run the offense to go along with his defense. But he can coach the heck out of a defensive unit.
Well, you know, again, fans take a snapshot of Brent Venables. Here's a guy who, Oklahoma just pretty much invited him to the door. And
well, keep in mind that Stoops brought his brother in.
Well, and
it made for a very uncomfortable situation there for all involved, I believe.
But that's what I'm saying. Some coaches who are tremendous are showing their walking papers. Maybe it was wrong, but you got to be able to recognize those people. And so he was one of those that if I was coaching Oklahoma, I wouldn't have let him go.
And here's the other thing about Dabo Swinney, and this was brought up at the beginning of the call. I was thinking about this early Sunday morning after that game as I was leaving the stadium. Dabo Swinney has a chance to really become the guy that people talk about in terms of Clemson coaches. And I know Danny Ford still has that aura about him, but what Dabo's doing, and he's still young enough, if he stays another 5-10 years and continues to sustain it on this level, and he has managed to sustain it at a high level now, we're going on several years, he has a chance to supplant and surpass the great Danny Ford as the coach. That win over Notre Dame moves him past Danny Ford for wins over top 25 teams at Clemson. So he's already passing him in those levels, and he could be the winningest coach at Clemson. And who knows? Now, I don't know. I'm not predicting that he's going to win a national championship or where he's going to go, but he's headed down that path. I mean, he's got Clemson among the elite in college football right now.
You know, I mean, let's face it. There were a lot of non-believers for a number of years in Dabo. He was viewed more as a cheerleader than as a head coach because of his boyish enthusiasm and all his what appeared to be crazy little sayings and slogans, you know. Like today at Clemson is Turnover Tuesday, which, you know, sounds silly to the outside world, but to him it means we're going to break down film of turnovers made in the NFL and college football to help my team. You know what? It pays off. Okay, back with you here on Sports Talk 800-956-7266. Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from the head coaches coming up a little bit later on. Whether you are a Carolina Gamecock or you bleed Clemson orange, all South Carolina college football fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union, with a convenient location on USC's campus and a Clemson office coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. One of the Tigers who came to speak to us today was kind of unexpected. Amon Lacob, the Tigers' place kicker, who was suspended for the first 4 games of the season following his arrest back in the summer on drug possession charges, and I think it was a DUI also involved as well. And as I mentioned at the outset of the program, he went through PTI. He's been cleared of everything. He did his community service, did what he had to do to expunge his record and get back in the good graces of the Clemson football program. And now he is humbled by what has happened to him, brought on by himself. And he's happy to be back at Clemson and anxious to help the Tigers in any way he can. He spoke to the media today. He opened with a little statement. Then he took a variety of questions. We got a little piece here for you, beginning with his opening statement and then a couple of his comments related to his arrest situation and going through PTI and getting his life back in order.
First off, I'd like to start by apologizing to anyone directly and indirectly affected by my choices, and then say thank you to anybody who's been a great support to me. I mean, I can't say how much I appreciate any words of encouragement or just support in general, and we'll start from there.
During your suspension, how much did you maybe hear from your teammates, even fans, anybody around or outside the program regarding the encouragement?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty steady flow of just people, especially my teammates, though. I mean, I had my family around me, but as far as teammates, they were there for me and checking in, calling Stanton Seconder, Jim Brown, a lot of the older guys who have been around me for a while checked up, and that was really nice, and I appreciate that. Sorry. Yeah, I won't go into much details about that, but just doing all the community service, that was a main part of it, and just staying on course with just not getting in trouble. I mean, PTI regulations tell us to not really talk about it, but it's just trying to become a better member of society in general, and so that's what I'm aiming to do.
How has this experience opened your eyes to what it means to be a student athlete and dangers out there, and also having come this close to the criminal system, getting a look at that? How has that kind of changed your perception or perspective?
Well, it's definitely changed my perception as being invincible, and just obviously you guys, the media, how hard y'all can come down on a 22-year-old kid, or a young adult, I should say, not kid. But as far as my personal choices, I mean, it's definitely opened my eyes to how short life can be and how precious it is, and this great opportunity. I mean, to look behind you and look at this stadium, and Saturday night, it was kind of it was all worth it kind of thing. The only way this could have been a bad experience is if I didn't learn from it. So that's what I'm aiming to do every day, wake up, be grateful, and then just keep improving.
All right, Amon Lacob, Clemson place kicker. He knows for now that he will be handling the kickoff duties, and that's it. Trickle remains the Tigers' regular place kicker. Of course, you know how kicking goes. All it takes is a couple of misses in a game, and then you'll get your chance to step in and see if you can do the job. I mean, that is the one position where you have to be on your game every play. because you don't get many opportunities to do your thing. And if you don't deliver, then they quickly change to somebody else. But he has made his apologies, and he has paid his dues and gone through the legal system and through PTI and done what he was supposed to do. And now he's back for good, we all think, with the Clemson football team. Break is coming up here on Sports Talk. We'll give you the recruiting report in just a moment. Don't go away. To recruiting we go on this Tuesday night here on Sports Talk. Couple of notes for you. Running back Tyreek Tisdale, 6'2", 200 from Orlando, decommitted from Florida last night. He's now ready to see what else is out there for him. He's hoping one of those opportunities is with USC. The Gamecocks had recruited him until he committed to the Gators in late March. He plans to contact his USC recruiter, Everett Sands, to talk about opportunities. They haven't talked since he committed in March, but he said he has a good relationship with Steve Spurrier. Plus, he has family in the Columbia area, likes the environment at USC, likes the coaches. And so he's been to USC a couple of times, once for a game, also for an unofficial visit, and for a junior day. His former coach is good friends with Sands, and so he's expecting him to make contact with the coach for him. Despite his commitment to the Gators, he said he did not have much communication with that staff over the past few months, and that led him to end his relationship with the program. And he said the only time that he talked with anybody at Florida was when he went to Gainesville for a visit. He said, I felt alone and distant. I felt I was pretty much a free agent. He took an official visit to Oregon State last weekend. He also picked up a recent offer from West Virginia. He also has offers from Kentucky and Miami. This season, he's rushed for about 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. And defensive back Tony Butler from Lakewood, Ohio, now has Clemson, Rutgers, Arizona State, Syracuse, West Virginia, and Minnesota on his short list. He was going to make a decision this week, but he's decided to hold off for a little while until after his season before he makes a decision. He is still planning to take official visits to Arizona State and Syracuse. He's been to Clemson Rutgers, and Virginia unofficially. All right, there you go with recruiting tonight here on Sports Talk. Don't forget to check it on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter to make it easy for you. Just use the hashtag STRecruiting. That will take you to all our recruiting stories. All right, quickly back to the phones we go. And Ken over in Florence. How are you, sir? Welcome into Sports Talk.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. You know, K-Mac kind of stole my thunder, but I called a local station there in Columbia before the game up there at Clemson with Notre Dame. I predicted that Clemson, based on their schedule, talent, and all the other folks they have in place, they might not lose the game for the next 2 years, and that I think that he will surpass that being Danny Ford up at Clemson because he's young enough. Really, if you look at it, Dabo is now, other than Frank Beamer, the dean of coaches in the ACC.
Yeah, that's great points. You look at this team, and it is built right now for an extended run of success because, you know, you'll have Watson for at least one more year, and I look at the quarterback position. You'll have Watson for at least one more year. Now you got Zarek Cooper coming in, assuming he doesn't bolt for somebody else, and they're in really good shape with one of the top 2017 quarterbacks, Chase Bryce, who was in for the game. So, I mean, they're just lining it up in terms of the talents at Clemson. Top of the hour break. We will be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Talking Tuesday. And we've got a couple of minutes to jump on a couple of calls. If you want to hit us up, 800-956-7266. After the upcoming break, we'll hear from Steve Spurrier and from Dabo Swinney from their press conferences today. Several pieces of email to get into. Dear Phil, could the Gamecocks bring in current NFL free agent Armonte Edwards to work with their quarterback, Lorenzo Nunez? Do rules prohibit such a thing? Yes, that would be prohibited. And they do have a coaching staff to work with Mr. Nunez. But thank you. This is from Tater. SOS is done. The only hope for USC is for him and his awful staff to disappear. On the incoming quarterback next year, wasn't Nosovich and Mitch highly regarded? Yes. This staff can't develop players. We have a number of players that other teams were recruiting, yet they never turn out good for us. Spurrier could have fixed a lot of the problems last year by firing 3 or 4 coaches. Also, didn't he say back in the summer that he would be calling all the plays? Just what are we paying him to do? He also said that we would have a pretty dang good team. Where the hell is it? It's time for him to take his sons and ride off into the sunset. Things started their downward spiral when Beamer left, then gained speed with Ellis's departure, then hit them with Lowing leaving. Tater. P.S. Lack of talent is whose fault? That's for the reader to determine. This is from Joe. If Spurrier wants to see a turnaround this season, then he needs to turn around on the sidelines and find some players who want to play and coaches that can coach. Try looking in the stands. Never a lack of armchair quarterbacks coaches there. They could hardly do worse. This is from Harry. As I have said many times before, just because your team is in the SEC doesn't mean they belong there. A doormat SEC team will struggle to beat anyone.
It's amazing how quickly
that's
everything can shift.
15 yards for piling on.
Because you call them they're a bad team now. No one's going to change that, but they still have beat Georgia, 4 or 5 out of the past.
Those numbers are starting to get to turn the other direction.
But my thing is,
keep living in the past.
Well, I'm not living in the past. I'm just pointing out you can't ignore what's happened. You can't sit there and say it's an awful program that doesn't belong. They're not an SEC team.
They were an elite program for about 3 years. They are now below average.
They're way below average. They're bad. Well, look, I've been beating the drum that the team is in big trouble. I've been saying that.
We're not ignoring what great accomplishments.
You should maybe see this in the summer.
But you also take a look at a team like Auburn with tons of talent, and what happened to them?
Well, their season's not done yet.
They're not a legitimate SEC team either.
First of all, our thoughts and prayers, of course. Sort of interesting. Some areas.
All right, Talking Tuesday here on Sports Talk. I'll tell you, both coaches began their press conferences by sending out their best wishes to everyone dealing with the flood situation here in South Carolina. And then it was on to football. We begin with Steve Spurrier, LSU, top 10 team coming to Columbia, maybe. And maybe they will play this weekend somewhere. Regardless, at noontime today, he was thinking about how to beat those Tigers.
Obviously, another very good team. Probably one of the biggest, strongest teams in the nation. Best running back in the country, everybody says, and Fournette. So it'll be a tremendous challenge for us. But we're looking forward to playing here at home at noon and see if we can't play a lot better. On the injury list, Lorenzo Nunez fell on his shoulder, sprained a little bit. Probably won't throw today, but he should be okay by the end of the week. Other than that, I don't think we've got any other too serious injuries. We just need to play better. We didn't play very well last game. Could have coached better also. And we'll try some things different, and hopefully that'll give us a chance to get in the fight with these guys and see what happens.
Steve, you've seen Herschel and you've seen Bo Jackson. Would you put Fournette in that category right now?
I think it's a little early to do all that. Certainly in time. I think both those players. Well, Herschel did leave early, didn't he? Yeah, he could have come back for his fourth year. Bo Jackson, did he play all four? I think he did. Yeah, I don't remember him leaving early. And of course, Herschel left because of the USFL. Back then, he couldn't go to the NFL. But yeah, our league, Trump stole him. Sort of messed up Georgia there for a year, but yeah, he certainly could be. He certainly could be, and probably let him earn all those as he goes through his career there.
Mm-hmm. Steve, were any players or staffers that you know of affected by these floods Sunday?
Well, some of our coaches live in the downtown area over here that had to be evacuated. But no serious damage to Sean Elliott. And G.A. Mangus had a little water in his basement, he said. Elliott actually had to leave his house. He lives close to Gills Creek. But I think they're letting him back in today. So our staff has been, I think, pretty well avoided the tragedy.
Given that Lorenzo is a true freshman, how much does missing throwing in practice hurt his preparation for a game?
Well, last week he didn't want to throw much at all. He wanted to take off every play, as you can tell in the game. So we need to coach him up a lot better, and he's got to get the ball out of his hands when he goes back there. But it may give Perry Orth and Michael Skarnecki a chance to see if we can get them ready to play also. But we'll wait till the end of the week, see where everybody is. That's probably where we are right now.
Steve, defensively, it looks like LSU wants to run the ball. They're not that strong passing. Will that change John's alignment to maybe stack the box?
Yeah, we will try to do better against the run. We've not been real super against it, but we'll do what about every team tries to do when they play LSU. It hasn't really stopped them much yet, but we got to get everybody up there and try to knock down the blockers and try to get a hold of him before he gets in the secondary. He's one of those backs that it's hard for a defensive back to tackle him. When he gets in the secondary, he heads for the goal line. A lot of times our guys run up those defensive backs, stop, and go the other way. I wish we had one who would run through them occasionally, but that's just sort of where we are right now and so forth.
Steve, you said you were tweaking the lineup maybe a little bit and maybe trying to still identify some of the right players. Are you convinced that you have enough of the right players to win SEC games?
Oh, I hope so. Time will tell, and time will tell if we can put them in position to let them play. Time will tell.
Steve, do you see any parallels between this group and your 2005 team that was in a similar situation but turned it around?
No, not really. It was not too much. Yeah. I guess that's not too encouraging words right there, but I don't know. We'll see. We're going to make some changes, and we're not going to run up the middle on first down every play. I'll tell you that, and so it'll be something different.
Steve, you guys had some moderate success running up tempo to kind of let Lorenzo just play and maybe not read so much last week. Could you maybe work a little more of that in this week?
Tempo? Yeah, we did a little bit last threw the little quick screen out to Pharaoh and made some nice yards there for a while. Yeah, the one drive we made 8 yards and tried to run it on 2nd and 2 and lost about 2 yards. End up 3rd and 4. So yeah, we. Our run game was not very good last week at all, and we got to find some new ball plays.
Technically, is there something that has to happen on that inside zone read for it to be successful, where it's a block that's got to be made, or the quarterback making the right read, or the running back doing something?
Oh, it's a combination, I guess, Josh. You need to ask Coach Elliott all that. That's a play that, of course, everybody's running it now, so it still requires some blocking, and a lot of times our guy gets it and there's about 2 guys waiting on him. So we obviously aren't blocking it very well. And then sometimes the quarterback is supposed to keep it and he hands off and so forth. But it's, it's not as easy to say, well, he should have kept it then, or well, he should have faked it and then threw it to Jarrell, on that little pop pass. It's easy to, after you watch the tape, what he should have done. But when the action's going on there, yeah, I played quarterback. I don't know if y'all know that, but I don't think I could. I don't know if I could do all the things that sometimes we ask those quarterbacks to do in the zone read, keep, run, throw. And if you throw it, you got 2 guys running at you full speed. So it's a little more difficult maybe than it looks at times.
Does it matter if your players are confident, or how much does it matter?
Confidence comes from executing, being successful, doing it over and over. So that's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to where we can establish some consistency, and that's where you sort of gain confidence, I think.
Can you do that in practice, or does that have to come in again?
I think it helps. It certainly helps in practice. It helps to do it over and over in practice, and then do it in the game, and then you feel confident you can do it week after week. But sometimes our practices aren't real pretty easy either. So I wish I could say we really look good in practice and we're not doing it in the game, but that would be misleading to say that. We need to try to practice better, try to complete everything, pass block better, run. So we've got work to do.
Steve, overall, do you think you have the kind of player leadership on this team that you would ideally want?
I don't know. First of all, let me just say this. We're not the only team in America that's 2-3. Right? I think the teams that we're sort of joking around with that went 7-6 and won the bowl game last year, they're all 2-3 also. Arkansas, Tennessee. So we're all sort of in there. You know, you could say, well, their schedule was tougher, this, that, and the other. Who knows? But so we're 2-3, and the only thing we can do as coaches is try to get our guys pumped up, ready to play this week. You know, let's go try to have fun. Yeah, we can't do anything about the last 5 games. Let's go try to see if we can really play this game well. So that's what we're going to try to do.
All right, Steve Spurrier from his press conference earlier today. All of it is available on our website. And that is, of course, sportstalksc.com. And what did you make of his mood today, K-Mac, and the way he handled the questions?
You know, I still – he just doesn't seem like he's having a lot of fun, and who could blame him? I don't know who would be having fun in this situation at all. And you heard the question. I thought that, to me, the most telling moment of the press conference, a couple of them. One, when he was asked, do you have the talent to win in the SEC? Mm-hmm. And he paused and said, I hope so. We'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. Mm-hmm. And another one, when he was asked if this team reminds him of the 2005 team, his first, that started out slow and then turned things around. And he said, no, not really. I know that isn't encouraging to hear, but no.
Yeah, that team lost its first 3 league games and won its final 5. Don't know if this one can do it.
No Sidney Rice.
Probably not.
Well, first I want to reiterate what Coach Spurrier said. Our situation regarding football, it's ongoing.
Okay, after Steve Spurrier spoke today, Ray Tanner came in to give everyone an update on the status of the USC-LSU game because of the flooding situation in South Carolina and in the Columbia area. Here's some of what he had to say.
Our situation regarding football, it's ongoing. We're not 100% sure at this time that we'll have a game here at Williams-Brice. While that planning is underway, it is not a definite. We will continue to monitor the infrastructure that is necessary to have a football game, and consider, hopefully within 24 to 36 hours, whether or not that we will play here. There's certainly lots of concerns with our families and people who live here in the Midlands, and certainly the logistics with the highways, the stadium water situation, and other pressures with first responders and highway patrolmen and all the police that we use from various counties around the Midlands. So there are a lot of concerns and a lot of things to consider.
Ray, is it at the point where you guys are looking at other locations to maybe move the game, or would it be a postponement if it came to that?
There have been lots of discussions in the last few hours that there's conversations about possibly moving the game to another city. More than one is being talked about at this point. I don't want to get into specifics, but certainly a game at LSU is not out of the realm of possibility as well. Again, our intentions are to stay on schedule and play here in Columbia, but it's not a definite. We'll continue to monitor it.
Ray, what obviously in the grand scheme of things is not nearly as important, but what can you tell us about the field conditions here and how aware you are of how playable this surface is after all the rain it's taken over the last week or so?
Well, you're right. It's what has happened here in the state of South Carolina and the city of Columbia is not football is not nearly as important or important at all when you think about it in that perspective. But as far as our situation here at Williams-Brice and the field conditions, we've been spared. We have a great grounds crew and a great infrastructure as far as drainage is concerned, and we're in pretty good shape. We've examined the stadium and maybe a few spots here and there that had some excessive rain or flooding, but nothing very serious at all.
Will there be a determining factor in a final decision, and who will ultimately make that call?
Well, certainly Dr. Pastides and I have had conversations, and Coach Spurrier and I have talked about it as well. But his emergency management team, I was up on campus earlier today, and a lot of people at the university level are involved in what we're doing. And certainly, as I mentioned, the university students will not be in class for the remainder of the week. So there's constant dialogue. The SEC office is involved as well.
All right, that's Ray Tanner from his meeting with the media earlier today. Now, an update on some things. Charlotte Observer reported today that USC officials have reached out to the Panthers about the possibility of playing at Bank of America Stadium. Panthers don't play there this weekend. There is the NASCAR race in Charlotte this weekend, which could put a pinch on hotel space. The Baton Rouge paper reported, a source in Baton Rouge, the Gamecocks have expressed to LSU that they would prefer to play in Columbia or at a neutral site before considering moving the game to LSU. And that's the latest on this situation. Back in a moment.
Georgia Tech is obviously our next goal.
All right, coming up on Sports Talk here in just a moment, Dabo Sweeney, Sports Talk presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Notre Dame in the rearview mirror. Georgia Tech staring the Tigers straight ahead. Here's Dabo Sweeney.
Georgia Tech is obviously our next goal as far as what we're trying to do with our season, just trying to get the next game. That's really what we're trying to do. Our next goal for the season is win the division. So as we get back into ACC play, really the rest of the way until the last game. So we've got a lot of work to do to achieve that goal. And the only way is to continue to do what we do. And that's put everything, every ounce of what we got into each and every opponent. Clemson, Georgia Tech is obviously a game that has a big history. They're always a different, and as well a coach team as we play each and every year. So for us, just a critical week of preparation as we dive into these guys. Offensively, for them, they're always a challenge. For us, for our defense, they just do a great job. They've got a few different formations this year, but the big thing for us is our keys, everybody doing their job, tackling well, same old thing when you're getting ready to play these guys, leveraging the football. They're explosive. There is when you think of Georgia Tech, like when you hear the word, big plays down the field and things like that, these guys are explosive in a lot of ways. They've had 28 touchdowns and 12 of them 2 minutes or less. You just think about that. 12 touchdowns, 2 minutes or less. That's what they have the ability to do. So you better be very, very disciplined with your alignments, with your angles, with your eyes. I mean, it's just that simple. Everybody has to do their job. That's the thing that always, you kind of hold your breath when you play these guys. And then they play 4 downs. This isn't a 3-down game defensively. You better be ready to play 4 downs. It's just what they do. They don't punt a whole lot. So a little different in that regard. Defensively, they're very experienced. I think they got 15 seniors and juniors in their 2 deep, and they kicked our butt last year. It's just that simple. We were pathetic offensively against this group last year. 2 pick sixes, and really put our defense in a bad situation in this game last year. So, and all those guys are back. 6 of their front 7 are back. I think this is a really good secondary that is well coached. They do a great job technically. They do a great job as far as route reading and breaking on things and leveraging the ball. They get their hands on balls. So it's a good group, a really good group. And so, again, for us, it's just doing what we do. I'm proud of our team. Obviously, it was we want to be 4-0. That was a goal, is to be 4-0 at this point. But 4 games don't make a season. Our goals are much bigger than that. And so, literally 1 day, 1 week, 1 game at a time is what we got to do. And, today's a huge day as far as our preparation. Our teams, just critical that we get the right looks. And, we'll do a good job getting those guys prepared this afternoon to give us the good looks. But look forward to it. It's always good to be back in the Valley. And maybe we'll have a little sunshine this weekend. Who knows? But 3:30 kick. And then the last thing I would say is once again, just, appreciation to our fans for people who showed up and embraced the situation last weekend. It was electric. And, we need that same type of enthusiasm this weekend as we take on a very tough Georgia Tech team.
Georgia Tech their season's sort of
gotten a little sideways on them with 3 consecutive losses. Assuming that 2 and 3 maybe doesn't best describe what they are.
No, heck no. You better be ready to play Georgia Tech. I'm just going to tell you. They lost at Notre Dame. Yet let's not forget Notre Dame was the 5th ranked team in the country, and they're still really, really, really good. And it's 16-7 in the 4th quarter up there. If you watch the game, and Georgia Tech had a really bad turnover, I think on kickoff return right there. They got after them guys at their place. I know the score, got away right there at the end, but it was 16-7 in the 4th quarter, and Georgia Tech had made some uncharacteristic mistakes that hurt them in that game. And then they lost to North Carolina, North Carolina's probably in the lead in the Coastal right now. What are they, 4-1 or 5-1 or something? That's a solid football team. And Duke's got 1 loss to Northwestern, who's undefeated. So they've played good people. Georgia Tech's a really good football team. I mean, we have a ton of respect for their program and who they are. Record has nothing to do with it.
A win of that caliber this past Saturday, maybe somewhat human nature to have a little bit of a letdown the next week. Do you like where your team is right now to avoid that? And does it help that you're playing a Georgia Tech team that got you last year?
Well, I mean, if we have a letdown, we're going to get our butts kicked. I'll tell you that. But it's really not I have not really seen that in the fabric of our culture, if you will. We've been a very consistent football team, regardless. We haven't lost a lot of games, but when we have, we've come back and played well. I mean, that was the rhetoric last year when we lost to Tallahassee. Oh, well, how are you going to get the team back? I mean, it's so devastating. They mentally spent, it was the storyline. Oh God, they just, the loss is going to beat you twice. That garbage that people try to pour out there. And, we won 9 out of 10 to finish the season and won the next week. And then it was the flip side. We beat South Carolina, and the rhetoric was, well, the season's over. They did something that they haven't done. Deshaun Watson's out. Their quarterback stinks. They can't – they're playing Oklahoma. Well, we played the best game of the season against Oklahoma. So, hopefully, we've demonstrated consistency regardless of whether we've had success, whether we've had failure, whatever. We've had other big wins around here, and where we've come back and played well. Our expectation is what I tell you guys all the time is it's a 1-game season. It is a season of its own. That's what I laugh every week. When I have to sit down and do the poll stuff and I kind of look and see what everybody's done, it's just hilarious because, in the talking heads, it's everybody, they just proclaim this is what's going to happen after 3 games or 4 games. It's just done. I mean, well, this is just going to happen. This team's there and this team's in. You forget you got to play the game, and it's just crazy. And so that's why I say that every week. It's a season of its own every single week. Every week. And you evaluate that season. And then you figure out who's this and that. And at the end of the year, then you got a consensus. But that's just what we do. I mean, that's just the way we do things. We put everything we got into every single opponent. We don't practice any different. We don't meet longer. We do exactly the same thing, whether it's Notre Dame or Wofford or whoever we play. And, that's our mentality. And I think that it's important that you have that type of structure because you are dealing with young people, and it is human nature. And that's why we put so much emphasis and effort on having a very systematic, plan of preparation as far as what we do on a daily basis. And we don't vary from that, regardless of any success or failure that we have.
Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, who else is going to pile on the media this week. All these coaches win their ball games. Yeah, enemies. Enemies want to pile on the media this week, or the media, the enemies of the coaches.
Is that why the media piles on them, because they've been piled on?
It could be. Tit for tat, maybe. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday night. Time to talk a little NASCAR as we move into the next round of the chase. Chip Weil, president of Darlington, joins us. First of all, how's the track after everything that's been happening all over the state, and especially the PD area, the coastal area? How are you guys holding up?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for us, the old lady in black, she held together pretty well. We have a couple of small issues, but certainly nothing like they're facing in Richland County. Certainly our thoughts and prayers with everybody in the state. And I've said it all week, Phil. It's pretty amazing to watch the citizens of South Carolina rally around one another. And I think that starts at the top with Governor Nikki Haley and her staff, and all the way down. It's been an incredible journey altogether. And certainly our thoughts and prayers are with you guys as you're trying to dry out there in Columbia.
Well, thank you very much. As far as the track is concerned, with all the heavy rain and the water rushing by, was there any erosion or anything like that involved with the track?
Yeah, a couple of small issues, and certainly nothing we can't repair pretty quickly. Nothing catastrophic, which is important, and I think that speaks to our staff and their dedication to making sure that the old lady, she's taken care of. A lot of our infrastructure was built in the early 50s, so certainly nothing they planned on ever seeing 23 or 24 inches of rain in a two-day span. So, we have a couple of small things, but certainly nothing we can't overcome pretty quickly.
Okay, we move on to the next race. I love the format. I really do. It really made the Dover race exciting because of guys fighting for position, trying to get into the chase. Kevin Harvick, who had to win, basically had to win to make the next round. He does. And Jimmy Johnson doesn't make it to the next round. So a lot of interesting developments from Dover.
Yeah, I think it's really important to see the kind of performance that the Ford team has had over the last 2 weeks. You look even back to New Hampshire and the success they had there, and running out of gas with 2 to go after leading the most laps. They knew that their back was against the wall heading into Dover, and man, they performed. And I think that's just a sign of things to come by that Ford team over the next 7 weeks. Those guys certainly are performing at the highest level, and that's what you need when you go into a playoff. You need your team, you need your superstars to be performing at the highest level, and certainly Kevin Harvick and that Ford Budweiser Chevrolet are doing that. But the Joe Gibbs guys are knocking on the door. We can't discount the success they've had over the last 13 weeks, and I certainly think they're going to be a contender as we go through the second round.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been so strong all season long, and for a team that is partially owned by Tony Stewart, considering what he went through this past week with his announcement, it didn't distract the Harvick team, and they were able to keep their focus.
Well, if it did anything, I think it motivated him. I had a conversation with Tony a couple of months ago when he was at the track, and we talked about his retirement. So I've known the impending announcement for a while, but certainly glad that it's finally behind him. And he has 1 year for everybody in the sport, fans, industry, the sport itself, to really celebrate him. I think he's seen what Jeff Gordon has done this year and the accolades he's received from not only the industry but from the fans, and I think that gave him a little bit of motivation to come back for 2016 and really go out on his own terms. If you look at drivers over the past 2 or 3 decades, some of them haven't gone out on their own terms. They've tried to stay in too long and didn't really get out at the right time. I feel like Tony's learned a couple of lessons along the way, and he's at a place in his life where, he's comfortable with making that decision and really still sticking around as a team owner, but not as a driver. All
right, and Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., they're still alive, and that's going to, create a great deal of interest if they can make some movement and maybe win one of these upcoming races to get to the next round.
Yeah, I think Dale Jr.'s best opportunity is in 2 weeks at Talladega. He was won 2 of the 3 restricted play races this year, and I feel like he has a great opportunity there. Jeff Gordon, on the other hand, we really need to see what he does here this week in Charlotte and the next week in Kansas. Those are 2 big opportunities for him, but he just hasn't performed, Phil, up to the expectation of his team, his fans, and really himself over the last 14 to 15 weeks. I feel like he really needs to step up his game in the next 2 or 3 weeks in order to advance to the round of 4.
Okay, Chip. Thank you as always, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Chip Weil, president of Darlington Raceway. glad to hear that the old lady in black is holding together. Hey, look, she's been around so long. She's not going to let a little rain mess with her configuration. It's still egg-shaped. It's not changing, not even if the pond.
Yeah, I was about to say
overflowed.
Brasington's pond might be a little full.
Yeah, but the track ain't budging. Back in a moment. Okay, our final minutes here on Sports Talk tonight, and we want to give you the weekly Mr. Football update presented to you by your South Carolina Electric Cooperatives. For everyday savings at your fingertips, download the Cooperative Connections app at ecsc.org/connections. That's ecsc.org/connections, and give you an update as best we can on some of the numbers of guys we think will be in the running for Mr. Football. There'll be some others. Tavian Feaster, running back from Spartanburg, 446 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 23 receptions, 500 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Quarterback Steve Duncan, Ashley Ridge, 1,098 yards passing and 9 touchdowns. Spartanburg quarterback Austin Scott, 1,981 yards and 23 touchdowns. Colin Hill, quarterback Dorman, 1,702 yards, 19 touchdowns. Dillon quarterback Avery McCall, 690 yards and 4 touchdowns. Chapin quarterback Logan Bailey, 1,382 yards and 14 touchdowns, 419 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns. South Florence quarterback Lindsey Robinson, 1,624 yards and 18 touchdowns. Receiver Larry Collins of Lower Richland, 36 catches, 732 yards. Conway receiver Brian Edwards, 36 catches, 732 yards and 7 touchdowns. Offensive lineman John Simpson of Fort Dorchester, his team is 7-0, averaging 40 points per game. And Well Branch defensive lineman Niles Pinckney was named to the Shrine Bowl. There you go. Some of the folks who could be, likely will be, in the running for Mr. Football in South Carolina this year. What else did I want to mention to you tonight? Furman basketball note. Bailey Miles has joined the Furman's basketball coaching staff as assistant to the head coach. He comes to Furman after, he was at Furman during his freshman year before transferring to Oklahoma State, and he has also worked at a number of camps around the country, but he is joining the Furman staff as an assistant to the head coach, announced today by Nico Medved. And we've got the baseball playoffs beginning tonight. It's October baseball. Only the elite of the elite survive to play in October. No Red Sox, no Orioles, no Rays. We have the Yankees and the Blue Jays from the American League East. Yankees and the Houston Astros tonight in New York. I am picking the Yankees.
And who does Houston play after they win this?
And you're picking who?
I'll go with the Astros.
Good. I want you both to pick the Astros.
Well, who do they play after they win?
They play golf, or they go fishing.
No, I'm talking about what the team that wins this.
Well, the winner of this wild card game will play Kansas City in the ALCS. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, State Man. Thank you, K-Mac. Thank you, Pro. Everybody have a safe night, and we'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.